So today I'm going to show you how I make these simulations in Unity. The first thing you need to do is create a new project in Unity. You're going to choose the editor version you want, and you're going to select 2D built-in render pipeline. You're going to choose a project name. Let's, for example, call it simulation. And then you're going to create a project, and it's going to take a bit of time to load. So the first thing we want is a ring where the balls are going to bounce. So in order to have a ring, I'm going to draw it. And to draw it, I'm using this website called pisculapp.com. And it has this circle tool, which if I hold shift, it allows me to draw a perfect circle. But as you see, it's going to be pixelated. So I'm going to undo this and first of all resize my canvas into, let's say, 512 pixels. I'm going to resize, and I'm going to use white color because I'm going to have a black background, and I'm going to hold shift and just draw a circle. And I'm going to use this button to align the image to center, and then I will export this as a PNG, selected frame export, download. And once it's done, you can head back to Unity and then drag and drop this into your assets, and then drag and drop it again into your hierarchy. We're going to rename it to ring. The next thing I'm going to do is change my main camera to have a black background. You can check how it looks in the game tab right here. You can set the resolution you want from here. I don't think this 1080 by 1920 comes by default. I think I've created this one. And if you want to create it, you can just press on this add new item. And you can name it whatever you want, like 1080x 1920. And you can set the width and the height. So I'm going to set it by 1080 by 1920. So now you have this resolution, which is the resolution used for YouTube Shorts. If we head back to the scene, we want to create the balls which are going to bounce in this ring. So first of all, I'm going to right click here and go to 2D object, sprites, circle, and I'm going to name it ball. It's a little big, so I'm going to reduce the scale to 0.2 for the X and the Y. This actually might also be too big, so I'm going to have it as 0.1. The next thing you want to do is head back to the ring and add collider. And the collider I'm going to use is a polygon collider 2D. For the ball, you want to add a rigid body 2D. This is going to add physics to this ball, so it will now have gravity and mass and all of this stuff. Another thing you want to do is change the collision detection to continuous, and you also need to add a collider for the ball, so I'm going to add a circle collider 2D. So now if we try and run this, you'll now have a ball which falls into this ring. So the next thing we want to do is make this ball bounce. One thing you could do is create, so I'm going to right click, create 2D physics material 2D, and we can call it, let's say, bouncy. I'm going to make the friction 0 and the bounciness 1, and I'm going to put this material on the rigid body 2D of the ball, so I'm going to drag and drop it here. So now if we run, the ball is going to bounce around in the ring. So let's say we need to increase the number of balls when it hits the ring, and to do so you need a script, and we can right click in here and create a script from scripting, mono behavior script. Okay, let's call it multiply. I'm going to double click on this to open it. This is going to open Visual Studio Code for me. So if you don't know how to code, you don't have to worry about this. We can use ChatGPT, and I'm going to ask it that I am creating a project in Unity where I'm trying to have a simulation of a ball bouncing inside a ring. I want to make ball multiplies whenever it collides with the ring, and the ball should also be pushed in an opposite direction from the collision. So it gave me the script right here, and I'm going to copy the parts which are inside the class. So I'm going to copy this and head back to my code editor. I don't need the start and update methods, so I'm just going to delete those and paste. Then I'm going to hit Ctrl S to save. So next I'm going to head back to Unity. In the ball object, I'm going to add a component which is a multiply script. So this one is asking me for a ball prefab, and to create a prefab you just need to drag and drop something from your scene into your assets, and this way you just create a prefab and the ball prefab itself is going to need a ball prefab, so I'm just going to drag and drop it in here. Okay, and the balls that I have in my scene, I also want to make it have the ball prefab. Now let's try and run and see how it looks like. Okay, so it didn't work and we've got an error here that tag ring is not defined. If I go back to ChatGPT, and it's saying here that in step 3 in tagging that I need to tag the ring object as ring. So if we want to do that, we will go back into Unity and select the ring game object, and we want to add a tag here called ring, and just going to add a tag, click on the plus icon here and call it ring, and heading back to my ring game object, I'm going to select the ring tag. Now let's try and run and see if it works. Okay, it seems to be working. So the next thing we want to do is probably set a limit to the generated balls, because it's going to crash Unity if we generate too many of them. So I can ask ChatGPT to do this. So let's say I want to set a limit to the number of balls generated to avoid crashing. Let's say we want a limit of 100 balls. Okay, so it's going to update our script for us, and I'm going to just copy all of this and paste it back into my script. So replacing all of this, and Control S to save. Going back to Unity, I'm going to run and see if it works. Okay, so we have the balls multiplying on collision, and it seems to have hit its limit. I don't see any more objects getting created. So now we have a basic simulation of a few balls that multiply on collision and keep bouncing inside a ring. Now the next steps to do is that we can add sounds, we can add colors, we can probably add a title in here which counts the number of balls. We could add a lot more stuff into this. And if you're interested, you can let me know and I can create more tutorials to show you this stuff. Thanks for watching.